Hey, AfterBuzzers, welcome to the AfterBuzz show. We are going to be talking about the Romanoffs season finale, episode 8, the one that holds everything. We are going to be talking about the relationships between these characters, the huge surprise bomb at the ending, and just what a terrible, terrible life this poor Simon has had. So stick around.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Get some karaoke going in here.
Yeah, we should.
Bring in some prostitutes maybe too. Really set the mood. Welcome everyone. Thanks for tuning back into the Romanoffs AfterBuzz show. I'm not Yasmin, if you couldn't tell. I know, striking resemblance.
Neither am I.
Unfortunately, Yasmin had a scheduling conflict, so super bummed she couldn't be with us today. I know she was really sad too to miss the finale episode. But I do have this lovely lady with me tonight. Steph, go ahead and introduce yourself.
What's up, you guys? I'm Steph Sabraw. Sorry to be late to the party, but I'm excited to talk about Simon and, like Amy said, the tragic life that was led.
Oh, yeah.
But triumphant, I guess, at the end.
Yeah, exactly. So let's jump into that. And I'm Amy Maestri. You've seen me. Old news. But yeah, so let's just kind of jump right in and talk first about let's go into characters first, and yeah, just talk about Simon. When you first started this episode, did you have any kind of thoughts on where this might be going, or any kind of what were your first thoughts on Simon overall?
I had no idea. Simon as the character when she started the story.
Yeah.
I had no idea at all. And usually I can kind of pick up on some cues, but I was completely blindsided. Like every step of the way, it just got darker and darker. And I just thought it was really well done, this episode, to me.
Yeah, I think the way that it was all cut together was really nice. And I think we got more character development. At least for me personally, this as characters was more satisfying for me than a lot of episodes before. So I think what we'll kind of do tonight to break it down is go through some of the different character relationships. We're definitely gonna throw some shade at Ondine and the dad, because shade is deserved there.
Jesus.
At Ondine and
Monsters.
George. And then kind of talk about how they did this layered storytelling, which I thought was really cool. But yeah, so let's just start with Simon. Right from the time he was a kid, you just feel for this guy. I mean, what a good actor too, the little boy.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he made my heart break
He was
20 times.
Such a good actor. And in terms of your first question, there was things I did pick up on. I did think that he either wanted to, he felt he was a woman or she was a woman at a young age, or wanted to just explore dressing like a woman, because there's obviously there's a ton of different shades of how you explore gender. And I thought that they did that in such a good way, just by subtly holding up the earrings. Yeah. And the way that he really respected and loved his mom at a completely different level. And that was the one thing I picked up. I started to think to myself, he sees the world in the view of his mother. The only male figure he has in his life is absolutely toxic, so why would he identify like that?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think when we first see his interaction with his dad, when his dad's on his deathbed, and we really know nothing about these two characters yet, you're like, oh wow, yeah, they have a strained relationship, something definitely went down. Ooh, he's not a big fan of his stepmom, they don't get along. But I mean, what transpired after is, I don't think at all what I was expecting.
No, not at all, because I was like, oh, well, the dad kind of seems like a jerk. Anytime that I see a dad being like, you're a failure, I'm like, you're a failure, not your child. And I thought there was this weird chemistry with the wife, so I wanted to know more, but like you, I had no idea. And then I was pissed that you even came back to talk to them.
I know. I know, at that point.
Siri's pissed too.
Siri's angry. Everyone's all up in arms about this episode right now. So yeah, I think once we get to see that brief glimpse of kind of what we thought at that point was closer to current day, You know, and we see their relationship just from a kind of a bird's eye view. And then we go back into his storytelling of what happened, you know, during his group session after his attempted suicide. Obviously, at that point, we're like, okay, there's more than we know what's going on. Like, obviously, he has a bad relationship with his dad, but I don't think we saw, you know, like, at least I didn't see him going home and, you know, swallowing a bunch of pills and trying to kill himself.
Yeah. I will say it was an interesting mix of kind of predictable writing, but also not predictable at all in terms of him being like, I'm a failure at everything and I couldn't even kill myself. And I say it's not really predictable. It's not a bad predictable because that is, I think, a common storyline with people who try to commit suicide. It does have to do like with this failure complex, and it's really, really sad.
Yeah, I think when we started to like unpeel the layers from Simon through multiple different forms of storytelling too, we started to just get such a clear picture. And I love that they went back to, you know, one of the first times we saw him as a little boy, how much he loved his mom. And how much his mom loved him. And as soon as I saw that relationship, I was like, damn it. I don't know what's going to happen to her, but it's going to be so bad. And I don't want it to.
But it doesn't seem like she's around anymore.
So I think they did a really good job of kind of pulling us into that storyline and pulling us into really feeling for him as this lost little boy who, is asking his babysitter questions about, you know, what if I want to feel special and, you know, being able to wear makeup or put on earrings.
Yes.
And then he loves his mom so much, and we're like, and the mom's not there anymore. So I think their storytelling and character building in this was really strong early on.
Yeah, well, especially, I know, well, hey, I didn't even, Ondine.
We can just call her her.
Oh,
her.
Big O. That little clip in the beginning was just like a taste of her horrible mind.
Exactly.
Like just playing with his, like, I'm just getting as pretty as I can.
Yeah.
So I can go screw your father outside while your beautiful mother's inside.
So let's kind of fast forward a little bit to you know, to Simon as once he goes to Hong Kong.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, at this point he's lost his mom. He's had to grow up in what I can only imagine is an awful household with him, his dad, his, you know, stepmom at that point-ish, but then also being sent off to boarding school. And then he ends up just saying, dropping all this, going to Hong Kong, gonna find a career for myself. Think he's happy. He's not gonna be happy. Something's gonna go wrong. Right.
Right. Well, that whole like build up to that was so enraging to me. I'm like, your dad's side piece, now wifey, burned your house and your mom alive and was hoping that you would be burned too.
Yeah.
Like clearly.
Yeah.
So and then seeing her smile as the dad said you're going to public school, and you just knew it was going to be bad.
That whole scene when she was just kind of glaring and smiling behind the dad. Oh, I just wanted to punch her. I just wanted to punch her the whole time.
Yeah, with the Hong Kong scene,
Yeah.
That was really cool. How you said the multiple storytelling.
Yeah,
that was really well done.
Yeah, it was really. I think it was a cool device to see them being able to tell the same story through different people. And different timelines too, because I think that's kind of what kept us like off the track, you know, like, or off the trail of like figuring out exactly where they were going in the end. But then I know, so you kind of mentioned this before we went on air, you know, his relationship with his father and then his relationship with Christopher. Just, I'll let you go ahead and say it.
This was just, obviously there's other metaphors and things going on, but just a massive, all caps, toxic masculinity is happening throughout this entire episode. I mean, and the gaslighting of women. In both cases, to get what they want, they made the woman believe that whoever was telling them the information or wherever they were getting it was lies, and made to believe that they were crazy. And this happens literally every day, and it still happens. And I know it happens in gender reversal, but it is so disgusting to see, because even Christopher is a nicer guy than the dad, but that is disgusting behavior. Like, you clearly have a sexuality that you need to work through. Like, maybe you're bi, maybe you wanted to be polyamorous, but to put this poor woman through this marriage with you and then say that he's lying and then use his entire story as your excuse of why he's lying. Like, even though that was such, I'm glad they told the story that way. It's like, you're a sicko.
You're like, the whole time he's telling the story, you're so involved and so intrigued and engaged by it, and then when you come back out of it and you realize why he's telling it again, you're like, wait, that's right, I hate you. Beautiful storytelling, but I hate you.
Yeah. Well done. A grade A con artist.
Yeah, but I think that's a good point to bring up, that it really, you know, I mean, Simon just saw this time and time again of the men in his life lying to the women in his in their lives, and creating, whether it's a riff in the relationship right then or what is inevitably going to be, you know, a riff in the relationship time and time again. Mm-hmm. So of course he's going to have great relationships his whole life.
Yeah, and of course he would think men are absolutely what he wants to identify as. Yeah. Not. Same here, Simon. I'm with you.
So okay, let's while we're kind of talking about the storytelling, so what were your thoughts on Candace when we first met her on the train, and she kind of was the one who launched into this story?
Candace, I was like, okay, she's either that really annoying passenger that's just going to tell a story, but it's going to be a really good story, which is done in films a lot, where they just have a woman who's or a man telling a story, and it's just done really well, and it's their grandpa or whoever it may be. So I thought it could be a relative when she said it's a murder.
Yeah.
And then I knew she was annoying, but he seemed really nice to her, even though she was annoying. So it really threw me off.
Yeah, I think
love the hair though.
Yeah, seriously. Right away, I just went like, oh, like she's lonely, but she's fun, and she's probably, you know, like really adventurous, and yeah, like she's probably gonna have a great story.
My grandma would do this. That's why I like didn't see it coming, because she would be like, let me tell you a story of the Armenian genocide. Like, she would just go on to that.
So you had a good personal connection.
Yeah, I was like, Grammy.
Oh man. So when they when she first starts telling the story, you know, obviously in every episode we have that one connection to the Romanoffs. Of course, we find out that he was in fact the writer who wrote the miniseries that we saw earlier in the show. And so I think it was interesting that you were kind of at first going like, oh, it's going to be about him. He's the connection to the Romanoffs, but we already kind of saw that story in a way, you know, through his miniseries. So I think it was kind of, again, like almost like a good kind of like smoke and mirrors at that point, to think that the storyline's kind of going to go off with something more about him, when really it's her who's like, no, I knew this guy once who was a Romanoff.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes you angry in the end again, because this guy wrote a movie about the Romanovs literally probably only because Ondine, his mother, talked about the Romanovs a lot at that point, even though she wasn't one of the descendants.
Fraud.
So makes you hate them even more.
They literally, I bet she made him think he was one of them, you know, like.
Yeah, so that was kind of one of my questions at the end, is like, I wonder how much she really milked that story, so much to the point that her son, who grows up to become a writer, feels, you know, like he wants to write that story. And I was kind of going back and forth if I thought, you know, like she actually just flat out was like, yes, we're Romanovs.
Yeah.
Or she just talked about it so much. But like, no, I think she straight up said we're Romanovs.
Same, because she was, on the flip side of toxic masculinity, she was a complete psychopath. Like, the worst kind of manipulative devil scorpion woman.
Steph, tell us how you really feel. Just let it out.
I don't know. I'm being subtle, but okay, I'll let loose. She's horrific. I mean, from the beginning, just being like this young girl as a babysitter coming to take his mom, and then even at the birthday party saying, can we take a family photo? Makes him take the photo, sends him off to boarding school. All this stuff is so cruel.
Yeah.
It's one thing to like run the family and completely murder your way in, but it's another to make someone's life literally miserable.
Yeah. Yeah, after that. Like
After
you
that.
haven't done enough at that point. So yeah, I feel like at the end there was still, of course, like they did it in a way that kind of let the audience decide certain things. And they've done that a lot this season, but I think in this episode even more so. Like they were like, no, yeah, like she's bad. She's bad news. Bad news bears. That's me really. I'm bad news bears. That's what she is. What am I, 90?
Bad news bears.
But yeah, so I think, you know, it's interesting that with so much storytelling in this, the story's still going on. Even after she's done, you know, kind of messing with him, even after he's, you know, cut ties, it still has such a lasting effect over time to the point that it has literally now killed her son. I feel like at the end of that, when she started to talk about the poison, I was just like, nah. Not really?
Yeah. Totally, dude.
So,
like, whoa.
Let's talk about that moment when we find out the reveal that Candace is formerly Simon. First of all, I absolutely love that she went with Candace because of sugar candy. That her mom always
sugar
called her.
candy.
I thought that was the sweetest thing, and I was just like wanted to kill Ondine at that point.
Yeah, oh my god.
More.
I know. I really couldn't believe that this woman killed her.
Yeah.
Like murdered her.
Well, so yeah, let's talk about that reveal and then kind of what we think about, like, because I know they planted a lot of different seeds as far as making you lean one way or the other, and I feel like there's still some debate over people thinking if she did it or not. So if you're someone who doesn't agree, if you don't think that she did it, chat us and let us know why, because I'm interested in hearing both sides of it.
Yeah.
Just because I think all season they've kind of done this back and forth between you know, but like kind of making you think one thing and leaving it very open-ended. So actually, before we do more, I'm going to leave this discussion open-ended. And Steph, I believe you have a message for our viewers.
I do. After you guys tell us what you guys think, because maybe the mom killed herself. You know, maybe she set the house on fire. Don't think so, but maybe you think so. You guys know that we're on the drama channel, and AfterBuzz produces after shows for nearly all of your favorite TV shows. We have drama, which you can find the Romanoffs. We have comedies. We have reality TV. We have so much going on, and we want to continue providing you guys coverage on all your favorite TV shows. So in order to do that, we're asking that you please subscribe to one or more of our channels, and by subscribing you get the shows tailor-made for you and you get notifications, but you can also turn those notifications off. Sometimes people don't want them. I understand that. And we really appreciate that, because the more you guys keep the conversation going, the more we can produce. And then after you're done that, if you're listening on iTunes podcast, make sure you rate us 5 stars and also leave us a comment there, because we like to check those too, not just YouTube. And make sure you like this video on YouTube if you're watching us here. Hey. Shout out, you guys. We love you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys for tuning in. And like she said, like, you can check out different shows on all the different channels. Me and Steph actually co-host the Saturday Night Live after show together on the Comedy Channel. So obviously this Romanoffs exactly like Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, so you're probably already watching that SNL after show, but if you didn't know, for some reason, we're on the Comedy Channel.
Yeah, pretty much same show.
Yeah, essentially.
But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in, of course. So let's jump back into kind of where we left off a little bit with more about Candace and this reveal. So when I thought it was a great line when she was like, when she just looked at him and was like, if young men these days paid more attention and you looked at me, you may have noticed. Like, because he was very like,
sips tea. Cheers to Candace.
Right? Like,
So
she
true.
straight up was just like, you, like, by just making eye contact with another human and not being awful, you could have, like, literally saved your own life.
Totally. And her just even because we know that they've met, and that scene when they met was really powerful as well. And the scene leading up to that where she met with another trans woman who had said like her bones were beat out of her body. So it's this whole other topic of really seeing people and really seeing women and trans women for who they are. So I love that added part. I think it was done so well.
Yeah, I think having that moment, it just gives her so much power at that point. Like, she has had the power this whole time without us knowing it.
Like, knowing she's so annoying. Oh, I got us house cocktails. Take a seat.
Oh man, the shade that she was throwing that whole time afterwards when she just grabs the earrings, waltzes into the bathroom, and the similarities between Simon as a young boy just looking at them in the mirror to her actually getting to finally put them on, such nice bookends to the story.
Is so nice because especially we know that Ondine, we're OD'd off of you. You're horrible. When she looked at the mom and said, "Those are such nice earrings," and the whole thing, and then when he came back to reclaim them, and she said they're hers. Like, this is what karma is.
Yep.
The only person I feel bad for was his wife to be.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. That's true. And I mean, if we want to like make something up, we can be like, yeah, she was just as bad.
Yeah.
We'll say she burned down house too. Just make us feel better.
She was a part of it.
She was awful. We hate her too. But I think, you nailed it with karma in this episode. I mean, like, I don't know that there's ever been anything that says more like karma's a bitch.
I will say, Candace is a true woman because she plotted like one.
Yes, this is true. Like, if this was a man, like, they would have been like gone off the handle really quickly, done something quickly, wouldn't have worked, would have been real messy. No, we're long game. She
looked him in the she made the poison so it's long enough where she could finish her story. And then even when she finally revealed and she's like, there's no point. By the time that they come, you'll be gone. Yeah. I got chills when she said that. I was like, whoa.
Love it. Love it. I was almost fist pumping at the end, I think.
But quick note on the brother. Sorry, what was his name? George?
No, the dad.
No, George the one who was killed, Jack.
Yeah.
Sorry, George. I do have to comment when we met him as a child and they were taking the family portrait. I absolutely hated his smile.
So see, you knew.
I knew. Like, if A, you're not the mom who corrects that smile, there's something wrong. And B, when you have that smile naturally, there's probably something wrong.
See, so we can hate him too.
Yeah.
He was evil from the moment he was born. We're fine. We can hate him too. Jack, done.
I was being so judgmental, but I was like, yikes.
Well, I like that now too. Now that you know like what that family truly is, you can just be like, yeah, I don't care.
It's justified.
Yeah, hate all of them.
Exactly.
So let's kind of what I'd like to. I know we talked about this a little bit earlier. I want to talk about the fact that the two trans women, obviously Simon, who was played by Hugh Skinner, which he did such a lovely job.
Awesome.
So like
awesome.
I was absolutely in awe of him the whole time. But I really want to talk about the two women who actually got to play trans as trans actors.
Amazing.
We don't get to see this very often.
Nope.
Outside of a Laverne Cox, or there's been a couple who have broken through to mainstream, but I think this is amazing. So Adele Anderson, who played Candace, and Rebecca Root, who played Dana, who was his friend from the therapy group. I thought it was just so nice that we actually got to see trans actors on screen.
I completely agree, and I was surprised, honestly, because Hollywood just doesn't cast people who are actually of the character that they're trying to represent. Yeah. Especially within the trans community, and also they're absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
like amazing.
And I can always understand like the argument of actors that if you're an actor you should be able to play anyone, which I do agree
Scarlett
with.
Johansson.
Yeah, unless it's like but which I understand that side of it, but then everyone always says, oh well, there's not a big enough pool to choose from, or it's whoever's better for the role. I don't know any two people who could have been better at these two roles.
No. How could there's certain things I believe I'm not an actor, so I'm obviously talking out of my butthole, but I think that as an actor you should be able to portray any emotion and wide range of emotions and experiences, but I think obviously some people like Eddie who played, there was one man who was born male and he played a transgender role and like he did great, but it's like when someone's actually lived those experiences and it's a part of who they are, why do you possibly think someone could play it better? I just do not believe that.
Well, and especially these two storylines, I mean, especially with Candace having to go through so many different levels as an actor in this, of at first, making us believe that she is just the like zany old lady on the train who's kind of lonely and wants to tell some stories and talk, to straight up just someone who has been waiting for revenge her entire life to get back at this family that has done her so much harm throughout her life. And then on Rebecca Root's side is Dana, to tell this awful story about getting her bones broken and just getting, probably close to death at that point. I think that, it's those two stories. I was so happy that they were able to be told by actual trans actors.
Totally. And I'm really curious I would love to hear the opinion of this episode from someone in the trans community, because for me, I thought it was amazing that they didn't make someone trans because she had daddy issues, and just it wasn't just that. There was multiple layers. Like you could see from a young child she identified with female characteristics, like the earrings, like the makeup, like the feminine type personality traits. And then you throw on top of the toxic masculinity that was in her life. And so all those different parts made it a complex dimensional character, as opposed to, oh, like she has daddy issues so she became a lesbian, you know, like how the Hollywood often writes characters like this.
Exactly. I think they did a great lead up, but that would be really interesting. I would like to hear from someone in the trans community about it. But just from our point, and I think on the storytelling side of it, it was great to see what a time span this stretched from. But I think it's also great because it allowed us to not only get to see Simon Hugh Skinner play this role up until the point of, being able to really be himself and dress as a woman, wear makeup, and then years later, after fully, committing to everything, being able to have an actual trans actor step in at that point. Because if this was all within a certain time frame, it would have to be one or the other. We wouldn't be able to get both sides of it. So I think on the storytelling side, it was cool getting to be able to see him take on that transition early on as an actor, as Simon, and then being able to see Adele Anderson jump in as Candace later.
Great point.
And also let's bring up too that the fact that this story started, it wasn't present day. It's hard enough for trans right now in 2018, almost 2019. So this story of this again, poor Simon, we just keep saying, but going through everything that he had to go through as a kid with the family issues and everything, and then we find this out, and it just, your heart breaks. So at the end, I think they did it in such a kind of like fun way. Like it was fun murder. It was fun murder on the train.
There were so many layers to it, because it's like not only did they have like the persecution if he was gay, because they had that conversation, but then you keep peeling it and you're like, wow, Simon, Candace is a queen.
Yes. She really is.
A murderous queen.
She owned that train with every step she took at the end, the way she even just like tossed her shawl over him for a second, like everything about it at the end. She owned it.
I know, and the to the little girl.
Her little secret. Well, lastly, before we jump into our special segment and a little bit of news and gossip, any last thoughts, overall thoughts on the episode or anything we didn't get to chat about yet?
I know that there's been a lot of hatred towards the show, but I will say that this episode was great.
Yeah, agreed. I think they ended with a good one. I think I've always been kind of torn over the format of it, just because so often an episode would either seem like it should have been cut off at an hour, or others seem like they should have been full features at 2 hours. This, I could have even watched more of this one.
Yeah.
But I think this was one of the first episodes that I think actually fit that time format. It never felt like it was dragging for me, and I don't think they rushed through anything too much. I think I could have I wanted a little bit more at times, but it didn't feel rushed to me either.
The only thing I was searching for, but I think there was undertones I just didn't pick up on hard enough, was more answers of the dad and his motives. Because we see him at the funeral having this moment of, no, of course I know I should be the one in the casket. But to make your wife feel crazy like that, and then to leave and then have her burn and then instantly replace her, did you feel really any remorse? Was that fake?
Yeah.
Was that real?
That's a good point, because at first it did feel real when you're at the funeral, and I was like, oh God, maybe he does actually have remorse. But then you see him just completely do a 180 and, do the full on, Ondine's going to be my new wife. She's going to move in. You're going to go to boarding school. Like, it just... So at that point, I was like, no, yeah, that was. Which makes sense, because that's, he probably was very good at that point at putting on false emotion and, making you think something that you weren't. That's probably what he's been doing to his wife for years. So
yeah.
He's a pro at this point.
So...
George and Ondine.
Rust in hell. George.
This was the weird thing about this episode is it ended on like an oddly almost comedic note, the way that everything happened. And I think it was just so heavy throughout so much of it that at the end, when you got to see her just have her moment, you were like, yes,
totally. Because she even walked by her and the wife to be, yes. And it was another case of, if you actually looked, you would have seen me.
Yep.
But you didn't.
And Ondine would not have missed those earrings.
No.
That's all she wanted.
No.
All this for a pair of earrings.
Candace is going to look fly until she dies, so.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right. Well, that brings us to our special segment. All season, we have been getting to go through some Russian culture. So, for this one, final episode... La vodka!
Vodka!
We're going to talk about some vodka facts for you. And while we do so,
History
drink some
of vodka featuring Amy.
So here we go. Got a nice little... Get
pour.
some pours here.
Pour me up.
There we go. We're going to talk about some Russian vodka facts.
As you can see, the music is cueing us in a very perfect way.
It is. So here's just some fun facts about Russians and vodkas, because... we all associate vodka with Russia, I feel like. So, here's a fun one. So researchers estimate that the average Russian drinks nearly 1 bottle of vodka every 2 days.
What?
I don't know if that one is true, but I've read it a couple different sites. So
I mean, if Putin was my president, maybe.
My goodness. Cheers to you guys
Cheers.
for that. After the Nazis surrendered to the Soviet Union on May 9th, 1945, the Russians partied so hard the entire nation ran out of vodka.
Whoa, I think I have heard that, but it never registered well enough.
Like, just that much.
Yeah.
So here's a good one, too, kind of going back. According to legend, in the 10th century, Vladimir the Great rejected Islam as a state religion because of its ban on vodka. He told the Muslim emissary who offered the idea, "Drinking is the joy of all of Russia. We cannot exist without its pleasure." So,
oh,
yikes, Russia.
Yikes. With all its pleasure. Really.
And being that, this has been about the Romanovs, about the Roman family, here's a good one, that Peter the Great is rumored to have drank a half gallon of vodka per day. So
What?
Anyone who's Russian watching this is just like,
I probably have like half a shot poured in my cup and I can barely even smell without fainting right now.
and I mean, seriously, it's strong. So on that, let's do one more fact and then we'll take this shot. In 1860, vodka was 40% of the government's revenue.
What?
Cheers!
Cheers, vodka
to you, Russia.
lovers! Cheers, Romanovs!
Ostrovia.
Thank you for your history.
Whew. How did they do a half gallon of that a day?
How did you not just have a chaser?
Maybe I'm Russian. I don't know. Italian, Russian, same thing.
Oh, what's the word you taught me? Das?
Da.
Da.
Yes. Da.
Yes? That
Da.
means yes?
Yes.
Awesome. That's all I need to know.
Lastly, let's jump into a little news and gossip.
Woo! I'm hyped off the vodka.
So I kind of wanted to end this season talking a little bit about if we think there is going to be a season 2. I know there's been rumors of it going both ways, but right now I just kind of wanted to leave it up to you guys to leave some comments, see what your thoughts were, what you're thinking about a season 2. I know there have been some actors who have mentioned that they don't want to see one because they love the stories that happened and others that do. And also a lot of people have been bringing up the fact that in the beginning of this episode, we saw the characters from the first episode, the first 2, and kind of like wondering if that's kind of like leading into saying there are more stories to come. So I just kind of wanted to kind of leave that for everyone. See what we all
You're
think.
just gonna leave this
Just
here.
gonna leave that there for you. So let us know what you think, because I'm, you know, what are your thoughts on a season 2, seeing more stories kind of spread out across the globe on this family and people who think they are descendants?
I think it is interesting, and I think there are more stories to tell. I think that if they do choose to proceed with a season 2, they should take some critics' advice.
Yeah.
Because obviously, like, the viewers do matter, and what people are saying, there is some truth. Obviously, not all of it's truth. But I think there are some changes that should be made, like in terms of length and stretching certain stories and not stretching certain stories. So if they do, I hope that they make some changes.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of wild that I felt like they did such a good job with this story, and then with others, I just felt like they didn't really fully get the grasp of like whatever the conflict was in the episode. Or I know there was a lot of controversy over the Me Too episode and consent and things like that, which obviously Matthew Weiner is not the best person to be telling that story, first of all, but we already got into that. But yeah, so I think it'll be interesting to see if they do go from here. And then what we would always like to do is kind of, since there's not really predictions, since these are anthology, what do you think Candace goes on to do?
Ooh, Candace, baby. I think Candace goes on to being a bad bitch. I think that was the closure she needed. And even though it was sadistic in a sense, I think that she has come to terms with who she is. She's a fully blown, beautiful woman, and I wonder what jobs or things she's doing. That is a second season I would watch. I think Candace is so interesting. I would love to sit down with her.
Oh my gosh, agreed. Couldn't have said it better. That I just want to watch her forever.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, she's just like such a weight was just lifted from her, and she just got to close that long section of her life that now she's just gonna get to be a bad bitch.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, Candace. All right. Well, Steph, thanks for joining me on this last episode.
Dude, Amy, I would do anything for you. Just like I would do anything for Candace.
Yes. Candace and Amy.
Yeah.
Best friends.
Forever.
And yeah, so Yasmin, we missed you, but very happy that we could have you on the panel. And go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you on social media.
Thanks for having me. We do miss you, Yasmin. I love Yasmin. You guys can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Steph Sabraw.
Awesome. And you can find me at Amy Maestri on Instagram and Twitter. After the new year, make sure if you're an SNL fan, you check us out on the SNL After Show too when we start back up when SNL is new. So thanks, guys. Great season. Thanks for tuning in.
Do svidaniya.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.